You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Good day, good evening, good morning. Welcome back. We are so happy to have you with us. This is Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show. I am your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer. And with me today, as always, is my trusty friend and co-host, Mr. Al Cini. How are you, trusty?
I'm fine, Dr. Jacalyn. Thanks for inviting me to play a part in your program today. This is going to be a great one, by the way.
It definitely is. We've got a wonderful guest. We become friends during the pandemic and have worked together on a few projects, and she's really dynamic. So we'll be bringing Trish Robichaud out very soon. I just wanted to tell you, I thought you did a great job this morning on Celebrate Great Britain Royally Rich Show, and I loved your hat that you had, and you had it all going on.
I still have the hat. I haven't put it on since then, but there it is. I'm not a hat guy, but I do have hats. That program this morning was great, and in fact, there's a tie-in to this afternoon's program because one of our guests was a gentleman who is dealing with the disability of his son, and he's created a foundation called the Kaleidoscope Group that he uses to help people with disabilities. And that's why I think it's going to be so much fun talking to Trish, because her expertise is in coaching entrepreneurs, business professionals who have disabilities, and definitely want to learn more about that. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's worthwhile saying that because this whole month really is about becoming aware of the disabilities that we can't see that people have. And so we'll be talking a lot about that.
Exactly. And on the show in between, the Underdog Show, we actually had an incredible guest who shared the fact that her husband was addicted to heroin and eventually overdosed, and the importance of mental health awareness for people who have addiction. So it's all tying in today. Before we bring Trish out, I want to play her clip so we can learn a little bit more about her before she comes out here.
Great.
Here we go.
The world is changing, and your company needs to change with it. Whether it's procurement, employment, marketing, or customer service, it's now more important than ever for your business processes to be inclusive to people with disabilities. Hi, I'm Trish Robichaud with Changing Paces, and I'm here to tell you that making your business processes accessible to people with disabilities is simply good for business. Accessibility and inclusion are the law. But here's what you may not realize. Disability inclusion is an opportunity, not an obstacle. In fact, a recent 4-year study found that companies that fully embrace disability inclusion had a 30% higher profit margin than those that didn't. Your investment in staff disability inclusiveness training can pay off in areas like innovation, brand recognition, as well as customer and employee satisfaction and loyalty, not to mention productivity and profitability. At Changing Paces, we can help you make that happen for your business. Our experts have real-life experience that will help your team gain insight and best practices they won't get anywhere else. And we can help you create a customized training program to bring your organization into compliance with local and industry regulations. This topic is very close to my heart for me, very personal. Dealing with the challenges of MS for the past 25 plus years and having lost my job as a result of my diagnosis back then, I've made it my mission to bring disability out of the darkness and create a more welcoming environment for people of all abilities. As a pioneer in the field of inclusiveness, our company developed and implemented one of the first accessible customer service training programs in Canada. We provide complete online training solutions that blend with your branding, your policies, and your systems. Between our disability subject matter experts and our technical partners, we can provide you with both the content and the platform that you need to create an evergreen training program that empowers your people while it transforms your organization and your company culture. In short, we make disability inclusion easy in all parts of your business. Contact us now for a quote or consultation at info@changingpaces.com. Your bottom line will thank you.
Welcome, Trish Robichaud, to the Business Talk Show. It's nice to see you.
Hi,
Thank you
Trish.
so much. A pleasure to be back here, Dr. Jacalyn, and a pleasure to see you again, Al. Awesome.
So that clip that we just played is very powerful for a number of reasons. First, you share that you've been living with MS for decades, and you also shared the fact that when you have a disability, an employer might look at you differently and might look at you as opposed to the value that you can bring to the organization, and the value that the organization can have as a result of having you is overlooked many times. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, the whole experience, and as a result of my diagnosis, I ended up losing my job there. And because of that, sued their butts off and won, of course. But as a result of that, I learned early on the need for self-advocacy. Okay. I needed to learn how to talk about having a disability in a way that didn't push people away. And so that is actually how I started out in business, learning how to, teaching others how to talk about disability without pushing other people away. There's a lot of disability advocates out there, but unfortunately, God blessed us all with a big mouth, but he didn't necessarily bless us all with a cup full of diplomacy, as I like to say. So he gave me the tact, and my father gave me the business acumen, and I learned that the lessons I took from losing my job after my diagnosis helped me craft what needed to happen, what I see needs to happen in the world, and it's really about education.
That's, Trish, on your LinkedIn profile, you talk about how you work as a coach for entrepreneurs, often business leaders who have disabilities. And you made a point in our conversation before the program that not all disabilities are visible. Maybe walk us through, like, without naming names necessarily, walk us through an example of what it's like to work with somebody who, do they even know they're disabled? I mean, is this something they even recognize fully?
There's a continuum, just like anything else in life. Okay. There are people out there who have an apparent disability. I can tell you that visible disabilities are no more than 5 to 10% of people with disabilities. Okay. So that means 90 to 95% of disabilities are invisible. Okay. So some examples might be somebody who has advanced diabetes, or somebody who has a gastrointestinal problem, or somebody who has chronic pain because of a car accident that happened when they were 18, which happened before, reconstructive surgery was great. You know what I mean? So they've had this chronic pain all their lives, right? And and to answer the second question, and those people who have advanced diabetes and who have a gastrointestinal problem, anybody who has an old injury, they're really not likely to even call themselves people with disabilities. But under the law, that's the ADA in the American case, Americans with Disabilities. I'm Canadian by way. I'm from Ontario, and we have legislation here called the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities. And we were the first province in Canada to regulate requirements for how to support and accommodate people with disabilities in society, as customers, in the workplace. And now Canada has an Accessible Canada Act as well. But your ADA has been around since 1990, so I've been jealous for a long time.
Something that I just want to share just quickly, because I know there are plenty of people out there who have allergies. And if you have an allergy, it can be completely debilitating. It can be life-threatening. And there are certain types of allergies that are covered under that act.
Absolutely. And so much so to the point that, for example, in the airline industry, It is not only policy for all airlines, but it is regulated by the Department of Transportation. I'm sorry, I think that's what your body's called, or whether I'm
Hmm.
calling on the Canadian term anyway.
Hmm.
But it's your transportation regulation, federal regulation for transportation mandates people, staff on the plane create a buffer zone for people who have allergies. So peanut allergies or airborne shellfish. If there was going to be someone who was going to be serving, they were going to be serving shellfish, for example.
Hmm.
But there's a mandate to make sure that there's no one in that same row with that is has the product, the allergen product, on them. Okay. Plus, they also let the people in the front row in front of them and the row behind them know that there is someone with an allergy present in the, between in the rows in between. And if the people in that area are not willing to comply, then the airline has a mandatory regulation to move the passenger with the disability to a safe zone.
Hmm. So, Trish, you're actually, there are two things that you're offering. I'm picking up two value propositions from you. One is you can help companies comply with mandates that they may not be fully aware of. That's one. So,
Yep.
I mean, there are laws out there that govern the way I operate my business. I may be out of compliance and not even aware of that because
That's
I have.
actually the case most of the time.
I'll bet that's pretty common. And so the education you offer there is that you help me understand what my mandatory requirements are. But beyond that, the truth is you help me do the right thing. I mean, it's not
Absolutely.
just because I don't want to break the law.
I
The
don't just
reality
think
is,
of I don't just think of myself as a trainer. I think of myself as an implementation coach as well. So
Mhm,
like we'll look at the legislation against your business, right? We do a cross section, your business over the legislation, and
right.
figure out what gaps you may have. And I see those as opportunities because they are opportunities to boost your business, because there are proven statistics that businesses that include people with disabilities in their business model, they drive profit margins by up to 30%. I'm
Hmm,
serious about that,
interesting.
Al. 30%. Nothing to sneeze at. Okay. It's a serious, financial, profitability issue. Okay.
Mhm,
And yeah, so we're working at helping them understand what their obligations are, but we also walk them through holding hands, walk them through those obligations and implementing those obligations. Because oftentimes, if I just leave a client with a list of obligations, they don't know where to start. They don't know where to find the resources, the training. They don't know where to find maybe products that they need to have on hand, or specific equipment in itself that they need to have. Um, which isn't major. Like, I'm not trying to scare anybody there,
sure.
but the bottom line is they need to know where their resources are. Like, for example, if somebody walked in tomorrow and said, that manual that you gave me to go with this vacuum cleaner that I bought yesterday, I need a copy in Braille. Well, my job under the ADA or under any legislation isn't my job is not to be able to pull out a Braille copy from under the counter and hand it off right there.
Hmm,
That is not my job, which is what most people fear. Most
right.
people fear that they have to be like 100% ready, at the waiting for a customer with a disability, and not sure how to respond, not sure what the requests are going to be, so they're not sure how to respond.
Uh-huh.
Just like any other fear in life, fear of the unknown is the paralyzer. It's the one that makes us cross the street when we see somebody who looks very different.
Hmm,
Maybe their body type is very different, or there's such an obvious disability that they feel uncomfortable with that person. And you know what? I'm here to say that most of that discomfort, 99% of it, is fear to offend.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
We're afraid to offend the person. It's not because we don't care. It's not because, in most cases, it's not that, discrimination isn't usually intentional. It's
Huh.
usually something just circumstantial that happens as a result of thought processes and planning that doesn't include the needs of people with disabilities.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And this is a completely different subject, but I'm going to make an analogy. When someone passes away, we don't know what to do. We don't call because we don't know what to say. And then
Exactly.
we see them, we look the other way, it's like, oh no, I never said anything. And it's so I think when someone has a disability, like for example, airborne shellfish, people don't want anything to do with me. They don't even bother to ask, is there something like, it's like, oh no, like something weird with her. She's different. She's strange. And so I think that all has to do with, to your point, fear, not knowing what to say, how to act.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly we have the other cases I can give you examples of, but we won't spend time on those idiots.
That's right.
But
Some of the people I know who have disabilities describe living in a world where half the people are staring at them and the other half are averting looking at them. And these little minimalizing behaviors that we engage in, these little microaggressions,
yes,
micro inequities, all those little behaviors add up to marginalizing 30% of your profit. That's the part, to me, the dollars and cents issue here is that a lot of your profit is bound up in the way you're behaving. And somebody like Trish can help rewire the way you behave so that you gain access to this resource that you always thought was something you should be avoiding. Do I have that right?
absolutely. The truth of the matter is, and I tell this to people all the time when I do talks, I do a lot of motivational talks on this subject. I tell people, especially business owners, we have, between US and Canada, we have 20 to 25%. In the US, you guys are 25% of the population has a disability. Does that number stagger you? 25, one in
Pretty amazing.
4 people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're a business owner. I'm going to ask you to go stand at the front door of your store and be a sentry today. I want you to turn away every 4th customer. Tell them to go shop someplace else.
Wow.
Show me what that does to your bottom line for the day.
That's powerful.
That's a great challenge for people. And that is true. But if you don't know any better, that's exactly what you're doing. And that's where you come in. And you also have this service where you work with entrepreneurs who have disabilities themselves.
I do. Say again.
What's the magic in that? That sounds magical to me.
The magic in it is that I get to unleash people on the world who have felt confined, defined, and completely paralyzed by other people's perception of them all of their lives or since their disability. Okay. Or since, and when we talk about disability, I'm also talking chronic illness. And actually, when you talk chronic illness, including chronic illness, we're talking about 55% of the American population. Okay. And most people who have chronic illness have more than one. All right. And chronic illness is just as valid a disability as my needing a wheelchair to walk.
That is so true.
Yes. All right. But coming back to your question, Al, the most exciting thing is seeing people who think that their life has been significantly limited and showing them that when they take a new position of their vision for their future, instead of standing exactly where they have always stood when planning their future, all they're going to see is the disability because the future they planned isn't happening. But if they change their positioning from a different side of the mountain or a different side of the valley or from a different side of the creek, okay, Their positioning makes a huge difference. And I talk about water a lot in my coaching practice. Okay. Very healing, very, very healing. In fact, I teach what I call the wave effect. And the wave effect is about well-being, automation, and vision. Okay. No E on the end, just to be different. Okay. And the vision part is about going back to our childhood and looking to see what made us excited when we were 8 and 5 and 9 and 4, and see what those things are. Really, let's go back there. All right. And then we get a clearer. The thing is, when you get all of a sudden are diagnosed with a disability, or all of a sudden you've had an accident and you have a disability, or a chronic illness is setting in and it's having a difficult time working, we now have the opportunity to completely recreate our lives. I saw my diagnosis eventually as a permission slip to start over, to just completely wipe the slate clean and say, what does my heart's desire tell me that I should be doing on this planet? And the beauty is it happens. I see it happen all the time. And in me, it happened. I was 12 years into a credit management career when I was diagnosed and lost my job. And I was good at my job. I felt like I was productive. I, was pulling in some great numbers for the company. All was well at work, but I wasn't fulfilled. I had no spiritual connection in my life at that point. My MS, it initiated, a journey that had me rediscover every part about myself over a number of years. I had the opportunity to recreate myself and to be a coach, helping other people through that journey. It's such a blessing. It's like being a cab driver, taking a bride to her wedding every single day.
Great.
Okay.
That's a good analogy. Really good.
Great way to put it.
We've got so much more to learn from you, Trish, and I know because I've interviewed you, as I mentioned, and there's so much value that you're bringing to our audience. So thank you for being here. We are going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. So stay with us. We're going to start off with our friends at BCAT. Here we go.
Great.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
It's what we do together that counts. The Big Alliance story. A true story about faith over adversity, perseverance, and entrepreneurship. Read Earl's story and how he became an entrepreneur. Available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible.com. For more information, contact Earl Hurd at earlhurd@bigalliance.com or call 1-800-460-4242.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademark series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Bella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Bella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Bella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show. Not just any talk show, the. That's right. I want to say thank you to our sponsors. We love you. If you're interested in sponsoring one of our shows, please go to drjacalyn.com/store. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Cini. There he is. And with our guest, Trish
Robichaud.
There she is.
Absolutely.
So before we went to the break, we talked about a number of subjects, but basically why it's important for business owners to understand, to be educated on people who have disabilities, what a disability is, first of all, legislation around disabilities, and then how you can have people with disabilities in your organization bringing value to your organization, and you're bringing value to them. So it's a win-win, and our expert here is Trish.
Thank you. Yes, and it's absolutely true. The most common misconception about employing people with disabilities is that it's going to cost more, that there's higher risks, and that they won't be reliable. Okay, but studies, many studies have proven conclusively, without a doubt. Most recent, I'm sure you've heard of the company Accenture, a global management company firm. They, in collaboration with the American Association of People with Disabilities, as well as Disability In, which are two of the largest disability organizations in the US, they conducted a 4-year study on companies who embrace disability inclusion, okay? From this much to this much, okay? All right. And the survey determined that the difference between the income down here and the income up here was that 30%. Some of the things that they found out is that turnover is lower. Health and safety costs are less. Why would that be? Why would that be? That would be because those of us with a disability, we don't take risks like the average idiot does. Okay. People who are healthy, they think of themselves as what's the word I'm looking for? In whatever. Indestructible. Exactly. When there are people with disabilities in the workforce, morale increases huge. Company culture improves. People interact better at work. There's a long list. I could do a whole show on the benefits of employing people with disabilities. Seriously, folks. It's really staggering, and it's actually very validating, because for those of us who've had disabilities for many years, we all knew this. Okay. And the cool thing is, now with pandemic, all right, we have been asking for the accommodation to work from home for decades, okay? People who have disabilities, they had the ability to work from home before there was even an internet, okay? Because we strove to reach out to each other back in the early 90s, before the internet came around, before it was public anyway. So a vast amount of, especially boomers, baby boomers with disabilities, many of us have high-end technology skills because we have been forced to find adaptations for our work ourselves. But the really cool thing is now that the whole rest of the world has been turned on to work from home model. So and everybody's saying, it's never going to go back to exactly what it was. And it's clear to me that from all the research I've been doing, that work from home is going to be not necessarily a preference for employees, but I think it's going to be largely accepted. And I think people with disabilities are no longer going to have a problem that being a barrier to work. And that's yeah, I'm thrilled about that. Yeah,
Thrilled about that too.
Yeah.
Trish, I am sold, as are many business leaders watching our program now. I'm sold on the idea that I need to hire people with disabilities because it'll benefit me. Question is, where do I go to find them? Are there recruiters that'll help me fill jobs with people like that?
Absolutely. There are nonprofit organizations across the country in every single state that help to prepare people with disabilities to re-enter or newly enter the workforce. And they work hand in hand with employers to help employers get ready to make their company inclusive, to be welcoming to people with disabilities. Yes.
That's
yes.
great.
Yes.
That is great.
Short answer to your question is get on my my calendar, and I will help you find the resources you need from wherever your business is, because they're everywhere.
That's on the scroll at the bottom, and later on you get a chance to tell everybody out loud, for people who are listening on the radio, how they can reach you. But I think that in itself is such a huge value proposition, because I'm thinking the recruiting costs. Normally, recruiting costs are very expensive. You're talking about working with not-for-profits who are going to fill positions in my company at no charge with competent people that I'll be helping by hiring.
And some states even have wage subsidies.
Seriously.
Yes.
So I could even get a break on salary from the state as an incentive for doing this good thing that we all should be doing.
In fact, Canada, and I'm sure that the U.S. is here with me in the same thing that's going on in Canada. The Canadian government right now has a huge push on to get people with disabilities into the workforce, because we have a huge labor shortage on skilled and expert-based help. And so I can see that happening. If it's not already happening across the states, I can see it happening, because it's a growing, as our baby boomers are retiring, there's going to be a huge labor shortage. Yeah, our millennials and our X-gens and Y-gens and all of the, the younger crowd, because needless to say, I'm a boomer. I'm assuming you both are too. They're going to be filling jobs, but you know what? They don't all have the same background and experience that some of us have, right?
Right.
So there are people, so being that there's people with disabilities out there who have been reaching out online and have been communicating online and have been doing video chatting for at least a decade before the rest of the world caught up, okay? So as baby boomers are retiring, there's a huge gap there. There's going to be a huge gap there for people with disabilities, or people of all abilities, who are willing to step up to take the learnings in the technology that they need to do. Because ultimately, all of these little things that we do to accommodate people with disabilities eventually create a safety net that supports everyone. Because most accommodations can benefit everyone. I mean, seriously, Al, when you were right deep diving, you were deep into your career. Couldn't you have benefited from working from home once a week?
Oh, sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole idea of a mobile workforce, we've had the technology to support that for
Yes.
a long time. A lot of it was societal because not everybody is ready to accept working from home, especially bosses. So COVID, in a lot of ways, has just made happen something that probably should have happened 15 years ago anyway.
Absolutely. You're right. The technology, that's why people with disabilities have been active online and engaged and networked for a
Sure.
long time before COVID started, at least 15 years. Yeah, because the technology has been there. And you know
Trish,
what? And it's people with disabilities that have driven the development of the technology from the beginning.
Hmm.
it's very
Anytime
true.
there was a new adaptation, it was to accommodate someone's needs.
Definitely.
Good point. A couple of things I wanted to share. So I've been working from home for decades. And to your point, like because of my disabilities, I can't really work in an office anymore. I don't even know if I can fly. But my point is, thinking back to whenever decades ago I filled out an application for a job, for example, and I remember on there, about having a disability. Do you have a disability? You don't have a disability. So I never put that I had a disability because I automatically thought, well, I won't be qualified for the job. They're going to overlook me because they probably have a certain percentage of people with disabilities and they have to check that box off. And if I don't fit into that, I'm not going to be able to qualify. So if you could just talk to the perspective of the person with the disability who's looking for employment, should they be open about it? Like you mentioned, most of the disabilities we can't see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Really, really good question, Dr. Jacalyn. It's actually a question that most of us struggle in our professional lives, is when to tell. If to tell, when to tell, then who to tell, and then what to tell.
Mm.
Okay, actually I have a training on disclosure planning. Okay. And it's ultimately, there's the bottom line is, there is no law that requires you to disclose a disability as long as the disability is not impacting your work.
Hmm.
All right. As long as your disability has not impacting your work and you don't require accommodations to mitigate that effect, then you don't need and even if you need accommodations, you don't even have to disclose exactly what your diagnosis is. You only have to talk about the aspects of the job that you're finding difficult and how the employer might be able to accommodate that.
Hmm.
That's all you need to talk about.
So when you say how it could potentially impact your work. So for example, if you said you need special accommodations, you need a special desk or you need access to a ramp or whatever it might be. But what if it's basically that you can't work in a typical office environment? Do you have to disclose that, or do you just say, I can't work in an office?
If you have a genuine health issue that requires that your doctor is prepared to say in writing that you cannot work in a typical office environment, the employer might if they don't want to let you work at home, they might choose to try and accommodate you at the office by putting you like in an office by yourself kind of deal. They'd be allowed to do that. That would be legal. Okay. You would have an obligation to try that solution. Okay. Now, if that solution didn't work for you and your doctor again said, you know what, she really needs to be at home because that office you got her set up on, he's too far from the entrance, it's too far from the bathroom, whatever. So then again, your doctor would have to step up and say, okay, so as long as the employer is willing to try, then we have to try to make their proposed solutions work. All right. But that doesn't mean we can't come back and say it's not working.
It kind of reminds me of something I was told growing up, that when you go out on a date, don't give all the information about yourself away. Like, oh, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this. So it's kind of like when you're applying for a job, it's that same thing. How much information do you give that could potentially be used against you, which of course they're not going to tell you that they're using that as to discount you or disqualify you.
Right. If I'm going for an interview The only condition that would require me to tell that employer when I'm coming for or before I come for the interview that I have a disability is if I require physical assistance to get in the building. I need accessible access, so I need to ask about an elevator. I need to ask about closest distance from parking to the main entrance, that kind of thing. That's the only reason. If I go through the interview and I don't tell, and my disability is invisible, then I have the option of telling or not at the interview. But if they offer me the job, and the job involves things that I will need accommodations for, I am required to disclose before accepting the job. Okay. If I don't disclose, then my employer may go back on me and say, well, like, how long ago did you know about this? And, it can get messy. I'm not going to say you've lost all your rights. I'm just saying it can get messy, right? But the bottom line is, as soon as you are aware, because sometimes disability will progress slowly, and I don't even notice it's progressing, but my employer might notice a difference in how long it takes me to produce the reports that I used to produce. Okay. So I might not have noticed. So it's perfectly okay for the employer to say, you know what, Trish, and for her to say, is there something going on that your performance has coming down? Like, it's been, let me show you, here's where your numbers were last week and here's where they are this week, like, to always err on the side of caution when you have an employee whose performance has changed, because there may be a valid reason that they aren't particularly aware. Hell, even if they're an alcoholic, all right, if they haven't gotten to the place of acknowledging they're an alcoholic, it's the employer's job to say, you know what, I think you have a problem. And here's our coverage, and we're going to, here's the coverage to pay for rehab. Okay. It's the employer's job to do that, even if the person with the alcoholism isn't 100% sure that they really have a problem.
So I have a question about that. So let's say you're an employer and you see someone working for you, and it's clear that they're on something, whether it's alcohol or drugs, and they're coming to work basically high, drunk, stoned. You as the employer can fire them for that, can't you?
You have to first pull them in, and you can't just fire anybody just for, it's pretty well, the US is a very litigious state, okay, or a country. You guys sue at the drop of a hat, okay? Like, seriously, I don't mean you guys personally, but compared to other countries, your litigation volume is much, much higher than Canada, for example. So when I let's say I've got, like you said, you've got an employer that's come in, I ask them to come into my office. All right. I ask them if they have a problem. If they're in total denial, I send them home with a warning. If this happens again, you're done. Okay, so you would treat that person with a disability with the same process that you would let go somebody else. Right? So if Jim Dandy in your shipping department lost it on a coworker one day and had a really bad argument and shoved him, and there was like almost violence, you wouldn't just dismiss that person. You would call them into the office and say, you know what, like, what's going on? And are you willing to tell me what's going on? If the employee's willing to tell you what's going on, things can look different. Right? And then it's like, you have to commit to me that you're going to take this therapy, and then you're going to commit to me that's not going to happen again. Right? So that's whether the person has a disability or not. So even if that person happens to be somebody who maybe has a developmental disability and got into an argument with a customer, you can't excuse the behavior just because they have a developmental disability. They're accountable to the same rules and regulations as every other employee. And you process discipline the same way.
with a process, that being the importance. Documented,
Exactly.
clearly laid out, the same way you would for anybody. And I think that and the advice that you don't over communicate your condition, I think those are two great tips right there.
They're huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate Trish.
If you don't mind, I would like to talk a little bit more about the entrepreneurs with disabilities that I support.
I want to, but you have to take a break, Dr.
Yes. Dr. Who? Who are you? Who are you? Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear from Marty DeFonts, her company Engagements, and then we'll be right back.
Great.
Meet the modern learner. Like most of us, the modern learner is short on time, on the go, and wants to learn on their terms and device of choice. The key is to meet them whenever and wherever they may be. The solution? Best-in-class content served up by the Engagement mobile learning platform, where the modern learner is at the center of the learning experience. For example, they can receive a text message that alerts them to a new learning module. They simply tap, watch, read and engage, or play a fun learning game. We transform your content into modules that are timely, accurate, academically rigorous, yet engaging and robust. Personality motivators are blended with modern adult learning principles to make it faster and more natural to absorb the content and have fun while learning. Our cutting-edge platform offers something for everyone. It can be an immersive experience where learners explore and engage based on what's relevant to them in that moment, or they can follow a set curriculum, earning badges and tracking points toward a credit or goal, or they can dive deeper into high-value professional content relating to their topic of interest. It's binge learning at its best. All this, along with an entire portfolio of real-time usable data and KPIs for stakeholders. Imagine, share up-to-the-minute news, enhance current curriculum, build knowledge banks, drive sales, and foster community in the push of a button. To learn more or see a demo, please contact support@engagement.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. My name is Cini. That lady over there is Dr. Jacalyn Corbett. She's the best.
Dancing.
Trish,
you gotta love the jingle. The jingle. I have to throw this in, guys, before it's gone. It's gone from my head. It's just amazing. I love the jingle. I gotta tell you. It's so catchy. As I hear it, I'm bopping around in my chair. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
We live for compliments like that. Thank you, Trish.
Yes, we worked hard figuring out which song we were going to pick.
I bet you did. I've been there. Yeah.
But Trish, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Robichaud?
You got it absolutely perfect. Honestly, Al, you have no idea how badly it can get butchered.
1 year of college French. 1 year of college French, and I could nail French names.
I've messed it up many times, and then when I interviewed you last week and I listened to your clip again, I was like, it's Robichaud. It's not Robichaud. I think I kept saying Robichaud.
Robichaud, and I think
Robichaud.
Yeah. But I have a question.
Where the intonation goes is usually what gets screwed up. Yeah. But thank you.
You're an expert on DE&I, especially as it relates to people with disabilities. A terrific resource for companies that want to reclaim that 30% of profit that they're losing by not adopting policies to hire people and recruit people with disabilities. I think that's valuable. But I have a question for you. You ready?
I am.
Is ADHD a disability? I'm asking for a friend.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
That explains a lot.
Yes, it is. In fact, you can go to your employer and say, I'm having attention issues, and there are things that you can do to help There's programs you can put on your computer that help. There's for some people, for some kids, for some people, I should say, learning disabilities can be resolved by just putting like a different color sheen on things. It can resolve like how letters show themselves. So and just this little spin-off on learning disabilities. But
I wanted to bring
is a
us
learning disability.
I know the topic you wanted to discuss in this segment was how you coach business leaders and entrepreneurs who have disabilities for one of the challenges. And so that was kind of a setup for you though, Trish. How do you work that magic with that?
Because I am a person with a disability, that gives me lots of credibility. And God blessed me with a mind for breaking things down into bite-sized pieces and making every task palatable. And so what I've done over the years is I have looked at what hasn't worked in my business, and there was lots of that. And what has worked in my business, which has been a smaller piece. Okay. One of the things that I found over the years, because I've been at this for 18 years now, one of the things over the years that I have found that I know that a lot of people with disabilities and chronic illness experience is having a lack of consistency, being able to stay in their business, to stay on top of the business, because their health will take them out from time to time. I'm going to give you an example. There was one year I had a quadruple bypass, and I was out of my business for a whole year. I never knew what it was like pain to breathe. It was the most painful thing I ever experienced in my whole life because I have advanced heart disease. And then about, I'm going to say 5 years later, I lost 2 years out of my business because my life went off the rails and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Wow.
And it took 2 years to regulate my medication to bring me to a place where I even cared about my business again. Right. And so because of these experiences, in the last, I'm going to say 7 years, I have dedicated myself to trying to find ways to build a business model that will include strategies that make my business more sustainable, even when I am not available. Okay. And I've come up with what I call the wave effect. All right. And the waves are just like you sound, you ride the wave. Okay. I teach people that when you're feeling good, you make hay while the sun shines. Old expression. Well, I tell them ride the wave. The only difference between riding the wave and enjoying it and it being a productive experience and riding the wave and crashing on the beach with your surfboard splitting over your head, okay, is planning. All right. That's the difference. And the planning involve well-being. And well-being isn't just about self-care. Well-being is also about environment. And it's also about mindset. People would never think that environment has anything to do with well-being. And when I talk about environment, I talk a whole hour on the well-being involved with your environment. Because your environment is way more than the chair you sit in. But I highly recommend, if you're sedentary and you work from home, man, you have got to get a core chair. Okay, look it up online, core chairs, just like it sounds, core chair. Not cheap, but I guarantee you, since I've had one, I have never once gotten up from my work chair and had back pain. Never once. And I have 2 herniated discs, L4 and 5. Okay. So I highly recommend the chair. But environment also has a lot to do with like how you interact with people in your life and set boundaries for your business. and set expectations for your family. Okay. And so that's the W part, right? And then very quickly, I know we got to wrap up. I talked about vision, which is the V, the automation piece. I want to tell you the key part of automation, because I see automation as anything that makes me hands off. It doesn't have to run by itself. It just has to run without me.
Right.
And then it's automation. Okay. So one of the pillars of automation is delegation. All right. And for those of us who work from home alone, most of us have never considered delegation as an option because we're a team of one. Who are we going to delegate to? Well, I teach entrepreneurs how to build a virtual team with apprentices that ends up costing them pennies on a dollar. And well, Dr. Jacalyn, she hasn't seen the results yet, but I just sent her an announcement that I just found her first apprentice.
Yay!
And, yes, and Mark is dying to get into helping you with your social media. Yeah, because I know how much of your time that takes up. Yeah. That's what I do. I'm really passionate about, now that I have finally gotten to a place where my business is sustaining itself. Okay. Now I got to tell others. I can't wait. I got to get up on the rooftop and sing it out. Yeah. Actually, I'm planning a group coaching program for September 15th start, or 15th-ish, middle of September. And I'm doing a weekend retreat in July. So
real quick,
stay tuned for more news.
Great. I want to make sure that we make a connection with the people we need to connect with. There are entrepreneurs out there who might have chronic back pain. They might have bipolar disorder. They might have multiple sclerosis. They might, they're the IBS.
Or they might just have high blood pressure.
Or
they might just be sick of the stress.
Or type 2 diabetes. Or these conditions are not an impediment to getting what you want in life. What you need to do is connect with somebody who's been there ahead of you and knows how to deal with all this, and that's you, Trish.
Absolutely. I welcome.
And for people who are listening on the radio, maybe you can quickly tell everybody how to reach you.
Absolutely. If you want to reach me by email, that would be Trish, TRISH, at Changing Paces. And that's paces as in steps, changing paces as in slowing down, Trish at changingpaces.com. But if you're sure that you want to talk to me, I'm going to offer you a free gift of a downloadable book, one of my books. If you book a consultation, all you have to do is go to 4, talkwithtrish.com. talkwithtrish.com and sign up, and we'll book a chat.
Maybe you can give that information to your friend, Al, the one you were asking about.
I wrote it down. I'm going to make sure I slip it over to him later. But Dr. Jacalyn, this speaks to you and everything you stand for. That's why I think it's such a great conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's certainly very close to my heart, as Trish said about her situation. Yes, it just goes to show you that even though you get dealt a hand that you didn't want, you didn't even know why you were getting it, you can be very successful and you can be very complete. And when I say successful, I mean inside as a person, emotionally, as a human being.
Exactly. One of the parts of my coaching program is redefining success. Yeah.
I love it. We're symbiotic. Oh, we are symbiotic. I don't know. Absolutely. I can't find you.
Yeah.
The other guys are
there you go.
Well, Trish, it's great having you. I also want to let our viewers know that you are one of our charter presenters for A Better You. Our program is coming up right on the next hour, and Trish is doing a great job. She actually did a presentation on her WAVE method, and you'll be able to purchase that on our online platform coming July the 1st. So Stay tuned for that.
Thank you for all your help. You're really, really, really wonderful resource. Thank you.
Thank you. No,
thank you, Trish. I look forward to connecting with you about The Apprentice. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Bye, thanks. Guys. Bye-bye. Oops, sorry. I always do that. I do that wrong. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, you should see me Friday around 6 o'clock. I start hitting all the
I was
right
going to say,
buttons.
we're only halfway through the week, but you're doing a great job as always, in particular in finding interesting guests like Trish, with the gifts that they have and what they're offering. I think to people that have challenges that they want to overcome. So it was just a great conversation, and thanks for including me.
Well, it's just wonderful to have somebody who's so experienced, and she's been dealt her own hand. That's been listening to what she goes through. It's tough, and she doesn't complain. She just keeps going and helping others.
You talk about working with the hand you're dealt, and I think that's a pretty common expression. Mm-hmm. I had somebody explain to me, if you know how to play the game, you can win with nothing jack high. Absolutely. Okay. If you know how to play the game, your cards don't matter. And, it really is a lot of it. Yes. Why me? That question that we explored earlier this morning when we were on the phone on the call with our friends from England. Get to the answer to that find the positive answer to that question quickly. Don't dwell on the question. Move past the question to the answer. Everybody's got one. And if you're an entrepreneur or a business leader, Trish Robichaud can help you find the answer. So great resource.
Really wonderful. Al, before we go, would you please tell everyone what you're doing over at BCAT?
Okay. I'll give it a try. Our job with brand and culture alignment is for us, brand is behavior, culture is motivation. So by connecting people with their purpose, we improve their brand, strengthen their brand, and quintuple their motivation. And that, as a result, drives all kinds of positive KPIs, higher profitability, higher productivity. All of a sudden, projects start getting finished, things get done. And that's what we do at BCAT.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And your phone number is so cool. We just have to say for people listening, you can reach out at 1-855-999-BCAT. And BCAT is
2228.
Thank you. 2228. Very, very good. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Al. We've got A Better You coming up, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And anything else you want to share with people? I'm trying to encourage people. We have a team of charter presenters that I have actually selected, but we want to increase that. We want to have more people join us, especially from the public. So what do you think the value is to someone to be a presenter on A Better You, Al?
Most people think of a mastermind group, which we hear a lot about, as involving celebrities and highly paid experts to come on and give lessons to ordinary people. But the reality is there's brilliance in every human being. Everybody has a story that they can tell or a lesson that they can offer that can improve somebody else's life. You don't need to be Tony Robbins. You don't need to be an astrophysicist famous on television. Name is eluding me at the moment. I know the guy. Anybody who has any lesson to offer can find people who need lessons from you more easily and more readily by participating in the Dr. Jacalyn's A Better You program. So you should sign up and you should do it right now.
And Al, one more thing about that. Thank you. So what if someone's thinking to themselves, I haven't presented anything in over a year. I'm afraid. I don't know if my presentation skills are up to it. I don't even know if I know anything to present. I've been in business 20 years, but what do I know?
Well, you don't know until you know, and you find out by actually doing it. So here's how this works. You schedule the appointment, get on the calendar, and then start thinking about what you're going to say. And remember, not everybody hits a home run first time at bat. A lot of people strike out. A lot of people kind of fluff out to the infield. And you might too, but you get several shots at it. Dr. Jacalyn is offering this program for people who want to keep trying and keep doing until they perfect themselves. And so that job as a presenter sharpens your skills and makes you a better version of yourself. And then in turn, what you offer makes the listener and the viewer better versions of themselves. So this is a win-win, and it starts by signing up. abetteryou.tv.
Exactly. And might I say that the folks we have on our team, that to your point, there are several who just didn't hit the mark the first time they started telling a story, and it has to be a lesson. But now they can't wait. They're booking. We have one person who booked 10 lessons already, and somebody else who booked 6, because they can't wait to get out there, because they realize, you know what, I do know a lot, and I can teach
how to do this. I do know a lot. And, when somebody asks you the question, what do you do for a living? This experience makes that answer so much sharper, so much more clear, so much more compelling. I mean, that whole idea of an elevator pitch, it's not a lie. It's the truth. So find your truth and find your way of expressing it. And A Better You is a terrific opportunity for exactly that. Plus, you get an audience. And
you get an audience.
Yeah.
And then if you keep building your lessons, you build a playlist, and then you can put it up for sale. So you're earning passive income while you're doing whatever else it is that you really, need to do for your career.
And as long as you're up there, and as long as you're up on YouTube, I mean, you're now on the internet with a lesson that you offer. You're marketing your services even while you're delivering your services. So what you're really doing now is doubling your impact in the marketplace by continuing to deliver your message over and over again while you're working. And for a lot of consultants, that's just about the best it can be.
So just go to abetteryou.tv, better, BETTERYOU.tv, and book your session.
We're waiting
for you. Yes.
Get on it.
Woo! Well, thank you again for another fabulous show, Al. It's always a pleasure working with you. I'm loving the tan, so keep up whatever it is you're doing there.
It's sitting in the backyard like a lump. That's it. I know how to do that. I'm good at that. I'm going to be doing a Better You presentation on how to sit around in the sun.
Well, we look forward to having you back on the program.
Definitely. Thanks, Doc.
All right. Thanks. Good seeing you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. That was such a great show with Trish Robichaud. And before that, we had several guests on Celebrate Great Britain Royally Rich Show. It's been a banner day. We have 2 shows that are left. As I mentioned, A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And our 2 expert presenters today are Hyatt Ives and Megan Sandwick. And that is right at the top of the hour. It's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time, I should say. And that would be 9 o'clock British Summer Time. And our show after that is In the Name of Love with my co-host Kimmy Seltzer. And our guest is Donna Barnes. And Donna has been on our show a few times, different shows, but she's a wonderful guest. I think you'll get a lot of valuable information. I just want to plug a couple of things. The first is that my book is coming out. I have a little banner for that. So the book is coming out Sunday, actually. And the book is called Behind the Green Screen, How to Succeed in the Live Broadcasting Business. And this is my journey of how and why I left my corporate job. My last paycheck was March 6th of last year. Went out on my own, created this broadcasting platform, which started on Zoom, just on the radio. There was no video. And now we have 17 shows. I have 10 co-hosts, and we've got some other fun things coming up. So I share my personal stories in addition to giving you all the information that you need to start your own live broadcast. And just to differentiate, this is not a podcast. This is a live broadcast that later will become a podcast. So live broadcasts meaning that we're live. There's nothing I can do. If something happens during the show, it's out there forever. And a podcast, you can retake it, you can upload it. So we live stream on 6 platforms, and then our show becomes a podcast on 5 platforms. So the book will be available on Sunday. I'm meeting with my book coach, and we're going to push that little button on Amazon to make it available for pre-sale. So if you would, we will be pre-selling at a discount. I'll announce that price tomorrow, actually. And then we'll actually have the book being delivered and available as of June the 17th, which is in honor of my mother's birthday. My last ask is I am raising money for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And if you've been listening and heard anything, you know I have ulcerative colitis, and I've had it since 1991. It is a horrible disease. I'm not going to lie. It's extremely painful. It's very embarrassing, and there's no cure. So I don't do the fundraising for myself. I do it for all the people who come through my support group, all the people, young people who are diagnosed, older people in life, they're diagnosed and it just completely changes their life forever. So if you would go over to my Facebook page, Jacalyn Kerbeck, I'm raising money for Take Steps. That's our walk, June the 5th in Philadelphia. And any amount of money that you can donate, $1, $5, whatever it is, I would really appreciate it. I remember everyone who donates to support the efforts for myself and my team and the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. They're my only 2 announcements for now. I'm going to go get changed for our next show. And thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. And if you want to be a guest on our show, just go to drjacalyn.com, book your session. See you soon.